Hey, this is Jack Ryan here from the Legal and Liability Risk Management Institute. Here to talk again, a briefing, if you will, on things that we're learning from law enforcement around the country in response to the coronavirus, COVID-19. Several things that are unique to law enforcement that we're picking up on is things like two-man cars, things like roll calls and things of that nature, cubicles, not necessarily just law enforcement, transportation of prisoners. So there's some things that we need to talk about from an exposure standpoint and also from a decontamination standpoint. Now, as I've said in some of our other briefings, this is not all that new to us, some of it. We have been concerned about communicable diseases for a number of years now. We deal with prisoners on a regular basis. Some of them are high-risk populations, are intravenous drug users, things of that nature. We've had to deal with the whole fentanyl crisis and potentially being exposed to that. So we do have some basic understanding of exposure and of contamination and decontamination. But I think it's always good to talk about it, get some reminders, think about what's being suggested, particularly in light of this COVID-19. A couple of things that we picked up from some agencies, a lot of agencies around the country. Last week I asked for policies and action plans, and I had a number of agencies, thankfully, thank you guys that did it, sent me their action plans through our website, and I was able to go through those and kind of comb different aspects of this to help put these briefings together. But, one of the things that I picked up was a lot of agencies are eliminating their in-person roll call. So in other words, they're not bringing all of their officers into the same room where they could potentially expose each other to this virus if one of them were to be a carrier. So rather than doing roll call in the normal manner that we've done it in the past, or briefings like we've done them in the past, where everybody gathers in a room and the supervisor stands up at the front and gives a briefing, a lot of agencies going to directly to their assigned vehicle. In a case if they have take-home cars, they check in on the radio, sometimes from the parking lot of the agency. And then sometimes we have a supervisor actually holding a briefing over a communications channel, not obviously our 911 channel where all our calls are going over, but and our main dispatch channel, but on another channel, a communications channel, actually holding a briefing that way. And that way it limits the exposure of one officer to the other. The other thing is, before even getting in the car, we've always done vehicle inspections. We've always thought to check the back seat, make sure a prior prisoner hasn't, left us, drugs or a weapon or something like that in the back seat of the car. But what we're saying today is that officers really need to immediately decontaminate the car, even from the officer that just got out of the car. And so things like the door handle before you even open the door. So officers should be reporting to their vehicle with latex gloves or protective gloves of some sort that will protect them from touching any surfaces, and with wipes that are CDC recommended. Disinfecting wipes, and they should start right with the door handle of the car and work their way from there. That car is essentially your office, and so we want to make sure that all the frequently touched knobs, the steering wheel, the starting button, if it has a starting button, the keys, certainly the shift, certainly the window buttons, all over the radio, particularly important, your mobile data terminal, your shift levers, I said that already, maybe your turn signals, armrests, consoles, cup holders, air conditioning vents, all of that should be wiped down because these are high-touch surfaces before you ever start the shift. Same thing for the back seat. There's a good possibility that you may have to put somebody in the back seat before the shift is over, and if that's the case, you want to make sure that there's no exposure by putting them in the back or you being exposed. Again, there are a number of different disinfectants that's recommended by the Center for Disease Control. Any alcohol solution with it 60 to 70% alcohol is what's recommended. You can make a bleach solution. CDC has put this out: 5 tablespoons or 1/3 of a cup of bleach added to a gallon of water, or 4 teaspoons of bleach added to a quart of water will make a solution that will disinfect and decontaminate your vehicle. You obviously want to make sure that at some point the windows are open so that the any fumes clear out before you start driving that car. Again, the other thing is soap and water works pretty effectively. In fact, they're talking about hand washing. That's the suggestion. 20 seconds of hand washing with soap and water is the recommended practice several times a day. Again, one of the some of the products, so you got to look at what you're using, because some of the products, particularly some of the sanitizers, recommend that you leave the surface wet for a period of time and not try to dry it. In fact, there's some that even recommend, even some of the hand sanitizers say, just leave it on your hands and let your hands air dry. So again, we want to make sure that that officers are decontaminating the vehicle first. I will add that some officers are going to be working inside the building. Some dispatchers are going to be working inside the building, and your entire work area should be disinfected before you sit down to start work. And we should, as agencies, we should give extra time on the front end and the back end so that everything can be disinfected before the next worker comes in. We do not want to pass this virus off to one another. And as I've said in other briefings, there are folks that are asymptomatic. In other words, they don't know they've been infected. They come into work, they sit at that console all day, they're dispatching, and then they feel fine. They get up to move. If that area is not decontaminated, they're asymptomatic, and they walk away. The next dispatcher could find themselves now infected as well. So again, really, really important to make sure that we decontaminate our work areas, whether it be a cubicle in the station, whether it be the dispatch console, whether it be the telephones that the call takers are using. All of those things should be decontaminated upon arrival before we ever go to step 2. Obviously, we've talked about this before, that the agency should take steps to get personal protection equipment. Now, obviously, there's some tremendous shortages going on. I was just talking to one of our guys from Kentucky, and there's some talk about even some homemade masks that are being sewed that will be better than nothing. Face shields, something to keep any kind of particulate matter off your face and get near your eyes, nose, or mouth would be better than nothing. But again, the recommended from the CDC, as I mentioned in another briefing, is something at least at the level of that N95 mask. So again, recognizing that resources may be short, there may be some others that have to be considered. Hey, in addition to surfaces, we also want to make sure, and when I talk about surfaces, our hard level surfaces like countertops and things of that nature, we also want to make sure that the floors, the carpets, anything else, somebody may have an office with drapes, all of these things should be cleaned on a regular basis, particularly as we go through this. And again, there are some sprays, some disinfectant sprays that can be used as well. Obviously, we want to wear disposable gloves. As soon as you remove the gloves, and by the way, there is a method to removing those gloves by turning them inside out, so as to avoid, getting what's on the outside of the gloves on your hands as you're taking them off. So we want to practice that as a matter of course. As soon as you get out of the gloves, you want to wash your hands with soap and water, and make sure you go up beyond the edge of where the gloves were. We want to make sure you get up, above your wrists. To make sure that they're clean. The recommended practice by the CDC, as many of you know, is to wash for 20 seconds with soap and water. Don't shake your laundry out. When you get home and you take that uniform off, don't shake it out, because that too can put germ particles in the air. And so that's that's something to consider. During this time, it might not be a bad idea not to commingle your clothes with other family members. When I say that, you throw all your clothes in the same hamper. You're coming in from work. It may be that this is a good time to separate your work clothes before you come in the house, or before you certainly walk around the house. I've got a good friend, Frank Moody, who's a police officer, and Frank was mentioning the other day, make sure you clean those boots off. You don't know, and spray them with some kind of disinfectant. And again, the CDC has recommended a number of different disinfectants, but remember that you can also make the bleach water solution, put it in a spray bottle, and use that as well. Just obviously use caution from a vented area standpoint, as well as from any kind of combustibility. Hey, a number of these items may sound very basic to you, and certainly they are. But again, it's a reminder, and we've always had to be concerned about communicable diseases. We do fall into a high-risk category because of the high-risk folks that we deal with on a regular basis. Right now, as an occupational hazard, there are going to be times when you do have to get close to people, closer than that 6 feet proximity. So we want to make sure that you're safe, make sure that we're acting as quickly as possible to ensure that we're using whatever hygienic means possible to get any kind of particulate matter that may infect us off of us. And we do that through, one, preventing it from getting on us, masks, gloves, things of that nature, and then cleaning up and disinfecting on a regular basis both of our work area as well as our person. With that, this is another briefing. Please be safe, and I wish you all well during this very, very difficult time.